Well, welcome to the podcast. We have Kendra Guerrero with us today with Swag Interiors, and I am very, very excited to talk through some design tips, information about interior design, and how it really varies very different than these people that say, I decorate.
Right.
It's so much different. So, let's just have you introduce yourself a little bit, Kendra. Tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got started in interior design.
All right. Well, my name's Kendra Guerrero, and I own Swag Interiors, which has been in business for about 7 years. And I got started ever since I was a little girl. I always loved design. My grandmother had lots of nice furnishings, and so I learned a lot about the quality and periods that they came from and things like that, and just always had interest. And so after high school, the next step is college, and so that's what I pursued was my bachelor's in interior design, and loved every minute of it. And from there, once I graduated, sought out work, obviously, and worked for a large residential company here in town for about 12 years, and then decided to spread my wings and go out on my own.
Super proud of you for that. You know, a
Thanks.
lot of people find it's easier working for someone than opening their own business, but you have definitely excelled
Thank
and
you.
have grown a client list.
Yes, it was very scary at the beginning,
Yes, yes, it is.
but lots of support from family and
Mm-hmm.
friends and
Mm-hmm.
clients, and so it's been a journey, but it's been a good one. So
Good. And while we're at it, where are you located at in San Antonio?
I'm located off of 1604 and Blanco Road. There's a little street called West Blanco that's right by Longhorn Cafe, which the
Mhm.
original. Everyone pretty much knows where that is. And there's an old farmhouse there with an industrial street, and I have the cutest little office with lots of natural light coming in, and have a fabulous assistant that helps me out, Jennifer, and easy access to 1604 to go any direction we need to go to visit with clients
You
or
do
come to me.
yeah, you do have a great office, which is why I wanted you to tell everybody about it because, you have it set up very nicely, and it's very comfortable to come to your space and work in. So, I always like to ask, what's the secret formula of designing a space? Can you give us a little bit of tips or what your thought process is on that?
I think the first thing is scale and making sure the items that you're selecting fit in your home. Uh, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a client's house that calls with an emergency because the sofa just got delivered from a local retailer and it doesn't fit. And how do I make it work?
Boy, isn't that true.
A lot. Scale is very important. Whether you have, now we have these extremely tall ceilings and big open spaces. And if you don't get something large enough either, it looks like a little postage stamp in this ginormous room. So I think that's one of the most important things that gets missed when people are trying to do it on their own, and not thinking about all the variables that go in there as
You know,
well.
I think that's really important that you said that, and I hadn't even thought how important that is to start with that. And I do think that is a place where many people forget to start, and that is one of the
Yes,
biggest reasons why they end up with hiccups or problems.
correct.
So,
And costly mistakes because
yes.
now they own that piece more times than not. And so um, they could save some heartache and
Mhm.
possibly some money by hiring a interior designer so that all of that is we scale it out, we measure it, we template the furniture and show them different options on the way the furniture could fit in the home so that they get tired of that arrangement,
Mhm.
it's nice to have more than one option and not be married to just that's how your furniture is going to be forever.
Correct, and out of curiosity, because I know that I sent your name out to a client of mine that wasn't local, but said maybe she could help me virtually. Can you help people virtually, or is it just better to be in person?
I feel that it's better to be in person. I can help virtually depending what the project is. If
Mhm.
I can get my hands on physical samples that if they have, say it's a new house and they know where their tile came from and I can get the samples and their paint colors, that makes it a lot easier. I do not like to make selections off a computer monitor or a printer
No.
because that never is a true color. So physical samples speak volumes and create uh well, I can't talk. They prevent costly mistakes because, and I don't want to be the one that makes the mistake
Mhm.
because um, some people they want to be insistent. They think it'll be okay, and at the end of the day, I hate to be the one that's right, but it doesn't work that way, unfortunately.
So tell us how homeowners can design a space that becomes their sanctuary. What are some of the key elements when you're working with someone to really make it theirs?
Um, you know, One of the nice things you can do is create a space, whether you like to read, you like to sit outside on the patio with your plants, or just enjoying when we have nice weather. Um, I like to sit outside by the pool, and we have, I'm a crazy plant lady, so that's kind of my happy space. So you get to learn about your client, find out what makes them happy, what hobbies they may have, and how you can incorporate that into their daily lifestyle, where they can get away if they want to, jump back into making dinner, work, homework with the kids. But you also want to figure out the whole family and their dynamic and the whole lifestyle. Because, like, if my husband loves TV and he loves to watch it loud, and if I want to get away from that, where can I go that's not going to be close to him? So,
Yes.
finding solutions like that is, I think, part of the experience that makes it nice.
Well, what I heard in that, which I think is, again, a very important part to interior design, is functionality.
Hmm.
So it's not just about pretty.
Correct.
Functionality ties into that.
It does. You know, if you create this beautiful interior and you love the furniture and it's set up, but you can't even sit your whole family in there, then that's just not good design. And
Mhm,
there's a lot that goes into design, learning about your client and their lifestyles and their likes and dislikes, and
mhm.
um, how their everyday life is. And, if they have an older dog, for example, and we're doing furniture, I may suggest, well, let's not go with the high-end area rug. We might do something a little scaled down until, you know, Fido is in doggy heaven, and
Mhm.
then get the rug. Or same with children, if they're um, younger and there's certain things we may that might get torn up, like you may not want a glass coffee table if you have young children. I
Fingerprints kill you.
Yes, I learned that with my nephews, especially when they're learning to walk and they're, like, right at eye level, and I'm like,
Yes.
"Not the corner. Don't put your eye out while you're on my watch." And so things like that, come into play, and there's a balance sometimes. You might have a particular piece of furniture that, um, is very important that you wanna incorporate into the design, sentimental value, things like that. There's a give and take, and I get it, and sometimes you have to be the bearer of bad news that it just doesn't work. But I try to think if it doesn't work where they want it, I try to come up with an idea that they didn't think of where we could incorporate it somewhere else. My family is very sentimental. I'm not so much, probably because of what I do, and I'm always seeing new things. But I grew up with that, so I have some sensitivity to it.
Yeah, there's nothing like the antique piece that does not fit with your modern furniture.
Correct, correct.
It's a sore thumb.
Uh-huh. So there's creative ways to do things with it. May not be in your main living room, but
Right.
we'll try to come up with a solution.
So, is there a set do you have a set of questions that you typically present to people or a process that you go to, kinda pull out of someone the items that are important, that help you better help them in designing?
Yes. I don't have a set of questions per se written down, but they are in my head, and I do have been discussing with Jennifer, we should probably do something like this and also have something that we give to our clients at the first meeting that explains everything we do, because they may not know the scope of
Right.
our process and our what all we can do as far as more than just making selections, whether it's flooring, blinds, what have you. And I always kind of start off with the family dynamic. Is there, you know, mom, dad, husband, wife? Is there parents living in the home, children, and their ages? Because I think that is important. If
Mhm.
they're about to exit the home, are those bedrooms going to be guest bedrooms and their bedrooms, or are they still their bedrooms and they have a different one designated for the guest bedroom where they still could have some input or want it to go a certain direction as far as style, whether it's masculine, feminine, or neutral. Um, and then from there, likes and dislikes. Believe it or not, dislikes are just as helpful as likes, because if someone hates the color red and they never told me they hated it, and I'm looking at all these other, and they say they like warm tones, then I might pull the color red and, going down the wrong direction when I'm prepping for something. So, um, and then just, do you work home office? Do you work from home? There's lots of offices in homes, but like mine at my house, I don't use it because I have my own office that I go
Mhm.
to. So, but I do go in there in the evening sometimes and surf the internet. That's my little corner that I go to get away from my husband. And if I just want to sit and scroll my phone or whatever I'm doing, I have my little chair and my little table in there, and it
That's your place.
that's my place. Yes.
Yes.
So you gotta. There's a lot of learning about the client as a person
Mhm.
and really getting to know them, not just what colors do you like. I mean,
Right.
you really build a relationship with them, which is one of my favorite things about this job. Is um, it's sometimes really sad when the project's over, because it's like, oh, now what? We're not going to see you anymore. So sometimes it's bittersweet. Um, but usually, maybe a year, 5 years, or what have you, they come back and need something else, and whether it's small or large, and then you get to kind of rekindle that relationship and start where you left off. And that's the relationship building is really one of the things I enjoy about it.
Do you ever find there's conflict?
between a Between a couple.
Yes, between a couple and how do you navigate that? Because, obviously sometimes people have very different ideas on design and they're gonna live in the same house.
Correct, yes. A lot of times we can get through it. Okay, why do you like this? Why do you not like this? And then ask the other person. But if they're just on two different ends, I may table it and say, okay, let's table this. Y'all go home maybe this weekend after a few days from not talking about it and decide, what's important. And then I might give them things. Think about this, think about
Mhm.
that. Um, and that might help them privately get to a resolution. Because if it starts becoming awkward, it's not it's not good for any of us,
Right.
and they probably don't know how to stop the conversation, so I'm kinda referee, "Okay, let's come back to this another time, and we'll continue on what you do agree about." So, it does happen. Sometimes clients joke saying we're like their therapist, or mediator.
Aren't we all, it
Yeah, I bet
seems
realtor
like?
as well.
Yes, exactly. I think all real estate agents feel that way as well, but it's because we get intimate with our clients
You do.
and knowing what works for them and what doesn't work,
Mhm.
so,
Do you
um
see any patterns of what men want versus what women want?
Um Men always wanna have a say sorry. Men always wanna have a say on the garage, usually, and the women usually are like, "Okay, there's your space, I gave you one area," or if there's a media room or a game room, it's kinda like, "Okay, well, you got this space, and now you have, the wife or the other partner has the rest of the area." I do it at my house too. And now I'm being accused of taking the garage over also, so sorry. But, you do, and I also very rarely do I see the men as interested in the project as the women. So it's kind of refreshing every once in a while when you have a man that really does take interest in it and, has opinions because, it's his house also.
Yes,
So you always want to, be sensitive to that as well. And um, sometimes they have input, and then it still ends up well, whatever whatever you think. But um, it's nice. It's sometimes scary when you don't have both partners there, and you're only hearing from one because is they gonna come back later and be like, "He doesn't like anything. Did we just spend a bunch of time on something that's not gonna be acceptable for both of them?" So, sometimes it's difficult or you wanna try to navigate through that and be like, "Okay, are these decisions gonna be good? And if he said he doesn't care, then we're gonna hold him to it."
absolutely.
But yeah, that is sometimes a little more difficult to navigate through.
Do you coach women on how to prepare the men or how to plan out how to go about the conversations and the decision making?
I try to stay neutral because I mean, essentially they're both my clients, but um I think I don't necessarily prepare them, but I tell them things to think about and things to maybe discuss, not so that she wins the battle or anything like that. Tell him this and he'll be fine. It's not like that, but it's things like, do you think he might care about this? And she may not have even thought about that until you bring it up, and oh, he might actually. And that's the benefit of my experience in seeing all the different um, things that can come up between couples and um, after a design process, than someone wanting to come see everything we did and not liking something. So um, there, I think it's an important conversation to have just to make sure that you're all on the same page and
Mhm.
and you're making the best use of their design time as well because you know, if they're paying for an hourly rate and they make all these selections that he ends up not wanting, then we start from scratch again, or we're having to step back and revisit tiles or paint colors and things like that. So you want to be compassionate to their time also and make sure that um, they're getting what they should be getting out of your service.
How many times, out of curiosity, because I know for my boys, the kitchen's important. Their wives couldn't care as what's in the kitchen.
Really?
It's just, where's my coffee? Where's the refrigerator? And they cook. They're the ones that cook.
I'm finding that a lot more.
Yes. And I have found that more and more, that there's a lot of women that don't cook, and the man is the main provider of the food and the food for the family.
I didn't get lucky like that.
Me neither, but
But no, I actually am seeing that more. And interesting enough, I'm learning it when we do the appliance selection,
Mhm.
and she's like, I don't care. He wants, whether it's gas or
Mhm.
what have you. He has an opinion. Oh, he wants this refrigerator, and the men usually do the research and they know what they want. And they probably know more about the appliances than I do, which is why I tell them a lot of times I don't need to do the appliances. I'm more from the aesthetic
Right.
standpoint. Um, but, going and meeting with the professional that works at the appliance store, that's who's going to tell you all the scientific stuff that this thing
How
does.
many watts and all this
Yes,
other stuff.
correct.
Yes,
And if
yes.
it's Bluetooth now or what, however they function and
Mhm.
all that. So um, you are seeing that a lot more.
What do you think are 3 really good design hacks, that's in the market, or you would recommend to people? We always see all this trendy stuff, but, uh, trendy is another topic.
Right. Um, I think something I like to do that stands out from other people possibly is I'll always like to do a client gift after the project's over, especially when we're, doing a large interior and we've done like sofas and accessories and art. Because I usually make sure the client's gone when I do all that because I want them to be surprised, not have to worry and be in there when we're sweating and we're moving things around. Because walking in on that makes it so much more special to begin with. And so I always like to have all the lighting set just right when I reveal it to them. I have some special candles that I have sourced that I love, and it's pretty unanimous that everyone has liked that scent. So that's always good. Because coming into the house, the ambiance is nice, the lighting's just right, has a nice smell, maybe some softer music in the background. It's all about the experience for them as well, I feel. And so just da-da, here you come on in, like that's not as special. I mean, it's just and it's little things that make it special for them that I think make a big impact, and it doesn't take much to do it.
Well, so it's almost like the TV shows is what I'm hearing. That's
Kind
kinda
of.
awesome.
I like it to be that way.
Yes.
I mean, they've seen some of the selections,
Mhm.
but when they come in, I mean, it feels so nice and just the big smile on their face. It makes you feel good. They're happy. They feel like,
Mm.
it was a good experience. And it makes it special for everyone. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a big bus, but I do have my movers.
There we go. Yes.
uh,
And if somebody was gonna design on a budget, let's say that they needed to redo a room for $500, which is not much. So let's say $1,000, okay? What would you recommend to maximize their money in trying to change an interior?
I think paint is one of
Mhm.
the least expensive things that you can do. Plus, you can take on the labor yourself
Mhm.
and makes a huge difference and makes the room feel completely different for minimal cost. And a lot of times, I'm trying to get some of my clients to step outside the box, and I'm like, let's paint all 3 walls in the bathroom or 4 walls, and they only wanted to do 1, and I'm like, "Remember, it's just paint. We're not ripping
That's true.
tile, we're not,
Mhm.
doing major construction if you get sick of the color or what have you." But, yeah, so I think it's the least expensive, uh, way to go, and it pretty much anyone can pick up a paintbrush. May not like to do it,
Right.
but if, you're trying to make an impact and a lot for the punch on the budget, that's the way to go, I think.
And out of curiosity with paint, because, I deal with this in, real estate quite a bit, and of course, when we're dealing with it in real estate, it is about how to make it more palatable for the
Mhm,
masses.
mhm.
But if I were going to do my own home, how many people do you actually get to steer away from all white walls or all beige walls and have a little fun?
Um, it really isn't that hard, especially if I recommend paint over wallpaper because
Mhm.
the expense isn't as much and it's easy to change. Um, I would say 9 times out of 10, if I suggest an accent wall, pretty much everyone's on board. Um, and like I have my fireplace wall painted and I'm kind of sick of that color now, but it's not that much to paint. So I'm like, "So what? That's an easy fix." It's, if you're redoing tile and things like that, it makes it harder. And there are a lot of people that will get outside the box, and we are doing a lot of wallpaper accents now.
That's coming back, I
It's
see,
coming
yes.
back.
The '80s was the wallpaper era,
Yes. No
and
borders though.
yeah,
Haven't seen borders.
yeah, I haven't seen Borders. Out of curiosity, is grass paper back?
It is. It
Yes.
is. And even wallpapering your ceiling
Oh,
is
wow.
is something that,
More textured?
yes, more textured.
Yes, okay.
But sometimes patterns of, I mean, it
Mhm.
has to be done right.
Right.
But yeah, some things that you wouldn't think of. And you may have all 4 walls in a different paper, but it really is unexpected.
Mhm.
And you should, like, especially if you do one ceiling in your powder, that's not very much. So you can, you know, stay more in your budget and not go crazy because wallpaper can add up real quick depending what you're using. And if you're scared to try it, it's a nice place just to kind of see how you like it and without having to cover a large amount of space. So,
And
um,
where do you see design trends? What kind of trends are we kinda leaving behind and heading into? They always have new paint colors every year, new this, new
yes,
that. We went from black to gold brush go I will have to tell you, I do like brush gold better than I do shiny gold. So,
absolutely.
I think brush gold is one of those that's gonna be timeless. That shiny gold,
Yes.
I don't think will ever
And
circle.
not that brassy.
No. Yeah.
Yes. The the brush champagne softer gold is really pretty, and you're seeing it mixed with black silver. The mixed metals is, I never thought that would be a thing, and
Mhm.
never say never, right? So,
Yes.
which makes it nice because you've got more textures and more mediums in there,
Mhm.
which really add to a room. I have a client that's got gold faucets, and we did black and gold light fixtures, and then we could not find a gold framed mirror that was the right gold because I'm very OCD about my golds matching.
Yes.
And so I was like, Black is a lot easier." So we went black framed mirror, and it looks fabulous. So
Mhm.
with the mixed metals, you're able to do that now, where you're not having to find the perfect gold. So,
Is there any other, design trends you see, that are starting to pop up that you actually like? Because there's a lot of things that pop up that
that
are
you
just
don't, yeah. And I'm hearing that grays are going out, but I'm not seeing them go out. They're bringing back some of the warmer tones. So but I don't see everyone on board for that. So um, we'll see. Uh, Time will tell, but um, seems like that's still, it could be trendy, but it's still very popular still.
Mhm.
So um, I kind of like to go in the middle where it could go gray or beige, and depending what you put with it, so that if it does change, you're not married to something that's all gray.
Mhm.
What do we call it? Greige.
Yes,
So
grage or
yeah,
greege or
greige,
any of
greige.
those, yes.
So
Yeah. Do you see any green features that are starting to pop up and become popular?
I just did a project for a client, and we did kind of not obnoxiously bright, but a bright green cabinet in her laundry and craft room, and it turned out fabulous
Mhm.
and was fun. And we did the pattern tile on the floor, and um, it's a fun room, and it's kind of a nice change of pace. If you're going to be stuck in there, at least make it a little more enjoyable, because she likes to sew and do things like that. So it kind of breathes some fresh life into that room where, it's not usually a large room. And so builds a little character in there.
Mhm. What's one of the favorite projects you've ever had?
My Dominion house, I would say, that I did uh, probably almost 10 years ago now.
Mhm.
The client was great to work with. I worked with her, the builder, and the architect from she had it designed, but there were still some features that we were tweaking, and he was very involved. And so, and the builder was on board for things that were kind of more outside the box. We had a three-dimensional wall that was cut on CNC machine that she had seen somewhere and showed me a picture. And so I'm like, I love a good challenge. I don't know
Mhm.
where that came from, but I will find it. And so we found it, and they were like 4 feet by 12-foot sheets that we installed on her entire wall that was like 22 feet tall. Um, and then even working with the lighting and the sound guy, he did all the LED lighting so she could change the lighting on the wall, and it kind of cast a glow of color with the LED lights. And but that project was from construction all the way through the furnishings to even plates and silverware and
That was the whole gamut.
yes, yes, glasses. I mean, everything was thought about, and that that was an awesome project. It was fun working with the client. She was a joy and fun to work with, doing everything from her pool patio and
Mhm.
all of that, pool selections with key stars, and so it's not your everyday
No,
full scale
obviously.
project.
Yeah.
But it was very fun to be involved from like start to complete finish.
I call that well curated
Y-
all the way through.
yes,
Yes.
exactly.
And talking about, new homes, because, we had the privilege to work together as
Yes.
well on an amazing project, of someone that was building their dream home, and unfortunately, in that process, their spouse passed away, and the dream home became something then that she couldn't keep. She needed to
Hmm.
sell. And, that was that was h a hard
Yeah,
switch.
that was a first for me.
Yes.
And you know, it was sad too, and you want you don't know how to navigate through that because you are we still making selections? What are we doing?
Mhm.
You don't want to be pushy, and so trying to find out what the game plan is, if there's a game plan yet. How long do you want me to just hang out in the back until you're ready to make a decision, because I think it was probably put on hold for about a few months, I think.
Yes. Mhm.
And, you know, I was fine jumping any direction I needed to, which I guess is can be part of the job, having to completely switch gears where you think you're headed, and life happens,
Mhm.
and so once she finally made a decision what to do and decided to finish the home and sell it, uh, then we knew we were switching gears. So some of her selections were for her, which she knew might not be uh, appealing to the larger uh, population. And so switched gears, went to something that you feel is uh, a large range of people will be drawn to. And that's still tricky because um, gray's in, but not everyone wants gray. The kind of modern or transitional is in, but there's still our hill country and all of that. So how are we going to navigate this to, if someone doesn't have modern furnishings, can traditional furnishings go with this home? Because if they can't, then that eliminates certain buyers off the bat. And so there was a lot of contemplating and thinking that came into play.
Yeah, you did an amazing job,
Thank
and
you.
the choices that you helped guide her with and think about were classic,
Hmm.
were timeless, and really tied the design that she couldn't change
Right.
all together to where it was one that was really sellable.
Hmm.
Um, and we did. We sold it. We sold it for a great price,
Yes, she was
and
very
it
happy.
it didn't take long to sell, and
Yeah.
you definitely contributed to making that happen. So, um, kudos to you for that, because I'm sure that was a hard switch in helping people, helping someone choose things that weren't necessarily for them
Hmm.
in the end.
Yeah. and
So,
and the floor plan, was labeled with their
yes.
names instead of
Yes.
bedroom one or what have you. And so, you know, that is hard when you're having to look at that with the client that they're struggling and
Mhm.
things. So there's a lot of emotion that comes into this job as well, and being sensitive.
Yes, and that ties into a really good question as well. How does interior design impact mental health? Because that was a mental health situation in
Yeah.
reality. And what design choices can make the interior more calming, um, in those type of situations?
um Definitely color color has the psychology behind it off the bat. And I think textures are important, different elements being used, whether if you add just a um, a blanket in the living room with a couple throw pillows on the sofa, makes it just feel different. It's not so harsh, especially if it's a leather sofa and you want to soften things up. You don't want everything to be hard and cold. You want it to feel inviting, um, but it also needs to work with their lifestyle. So that if this is, I've had people, I cannot walk into my master bedroom anymore. I hate it. I hate it. And I say, well, what do you hate about it? Like, what is your biggest
Yeah.
complaint? And we'll start there. And it could be the flooring. It could be the wall color or the furniture, and finding where you need to start, because it can be mental if you're unhappy with something in your home and you look at it every day and it just bugs you. um, Sometimes there could be a easy solution, um, or a starting point to at least make you enjoy it a little more, knowing that there's a plan.
Mhm.
So
And you said a key word earlier, textures.
Hmm.
Define what textures are and what is your favorite thing about textures?
Textures could be an area rug, it could be an accessory, it could be a plant. Adding different elements that aren't, let's say we have ceramic accessories. You don't want all ceramic accessories. You want to maybe put some metal in there, a lamp with, different shade, just different materials, and blending them and having them play off one another, so that it doesn't feel like it's all matchy matchy. You want to mix it up. So,
And do you have something that seems to be your go-to or one of your favorite to use
as far
as a texture?
as a texture, I love lamps. And there's so many ways to incorporate a lamp, whether it's a floor lamp, um, table lamp, or light fixture. Um, that that's another way you could. Well, back to your previous question on how to do something that's real impactful on a small budget. Just changing your dining room light fixture could make that whole room look completely different. My husband hates our light fixtures over the island, so maybe for his psychology, maybe for Christmas we could change those, and maybe he'll be happier in our home. I don't know.
So let's ask another question. Let's talk about rules. We know interior design has rules, obviously. What's one rule that is fun to break?
um, I don't know if it's an official rule, but I think a lot of people might think it's a rule. Designers probably don't look at it that way. But a lot of people think everything has to match. Like your nightstands have to match on both sides of the bed, or your end tables in the living room need to match. And they don't. And I think it adds to it if they don't match. I never. I put my foot down. I'll dig my heels in the sand if they want them to match. Like they might be from the same collection. One may be drawers. One may have doors. They could be from different collections. Sometimes they could be even different colors, as long as it is aesthetically pleasing and works and with everything else going on and isn't just an oddball in the room. But that I buy from all different vendors that may not even be the same company, because as long as it's done right, it adds a lot of uniqueness to your interior, where it doesn't look like your neighbors next door, or you saw something at someone's house or in a furniture store where they have it set up like everything always seems to match in furniture stores. uh,
Yes, you aren't kidding. It's all pretty
yeah.
straight across the board, the same
Right,
thing. Yeah,
exactly.
pretty boring.
Yeah, I mean, it matches,
Mhm.
but anyone could just go and buy off the floor and it should, we'll just have that. You got to kind of think outside the box and think about, you know, can this one be larger than the other one on the other side? And spatially, especially in a living room, you may need a larger on one side and a smaller on the other, depending how the layout is. So that's something I always, if you want to call it a rule, I break. Um,
And so you know, I often think about the covers of Architectural Digest, and you go through all those photos, and a lot of times those photos are not just interior design, they are fully decorated, and you can't even see the design.
Correct.
So, what's the difference between somebody who decorates and somebody who does interior design?
An interior designer has a bachelor's degree in interior design from a four-year university.
Mhm.
A decorator is someone that is talented and can pick out accessories, art, some colors, things like that. But uh, the designer has had a formal education and has the knowledge, knows how to space plan, think about scale and things of that nature. We do color selections, of course, and do we? Absolutely. But it goes much further than that, and there's a lot more thought process that goes into it than just trying to fill it with as much art and accessories and florals where you can't even see the countertop or
Yeah, that causes me mental health.
yeah, right? Yes, it gets
Yeah, it
cluttered.
gets cluttered.
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am. That's something
So,
I've always seen, and I think one of my pet peeves that I've always, seen lately, probably in the last 5, 6 years, you get these little bench stools in front of the fireplace, and it's like, I can't see the fireplace through the benches. I can't see the fireplace through the, photo because you
uh-huh.
got it blocked with these benches because
Yes.
it's about stuff, and I
Mhm.
think that's a key word, and you said it at the very beginning, is really understanding the space and scale.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
very, very true.
Yes. And I know exactly what you're talking about now that I think about it, and you're right. Like there's so much in that picture.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
That you don't really know what to look at. And that's something that sometimes I have to explain to clients because they want everything and I'm like it's overkill. Your eyes are going to be doing, circles around the room because it can't stop at any one thing because there's so much going on. You can't appreciate anything. And it ends up where they had or have a beautiful interior, but it would be so much better if it was simplified.
Yes,
Um, Less is more.
yes, less is more. D Tell us about, is there another project that you've done that you just found really challenging? They wanted to do a lot of things or, a lot of changes that you had to think through carefully,
Mhm.
especially when it comes to remodeling.
Yes, and it's actually come up a few times in remodel projects um, where some of these older homes, your rooms were more sectioned in the 90s and early 2000s, where now everything is so open. You walk in and it's the living room, the dining room, it's all kitchen, it's all together. So trying to modify that, which a lot of times is structural and um, you the client has it's not an inexpensive change, but it in my opinion I would rather see them put something else on hold and figure out how to take that wall down and put a beam up, and even if they can't maybe do the rest of that living room and can only do the kitchen and that structural part, um, because it's the difference between having an amazing functional interior versus not. It hurts me to see them spend all this money. Like you have a new kitchen, you have a new living room, fireplace, all of that, but you still have the same issue that it was a separate room and you didn't accomplish trying to bring it all together. So does it look beautiful? Absolutely, but the main reason you started this project is because you wanted to bring it all together, and then something like a structural wall being
Mhm.
there or beam um, kept you from doing it. And I've done it a few times where I really say let's put something else on hold because I promise you you will thank me later. And every time I've done it, um, they're like, I am so glad you made us do that or really convinced us to think about it because a column coming down in the middle of your kitchen island,
Yeah.
like that's one of my clients was going to do that, and I was like, I really wish you would reconsider. You will be kicking yourself later, and at that point it's too late. And so um those two clients definitely were glad they listened. So
Yes.
that made me feel good that they didn't feel like they wasted a bunch of money doing that either.
Right.
How do you
Right.
build that trust with those clients so they take your advice?
Um, that's a good question. Building trust starts at the very beginning, and I think through the process, when we're doing other things, they're seeing that, okay, she was right about that. Now we're going to the next step. Right about that, and maybe a little begging on my part, but I've been doing it for a very long time, and um, I I've seen it done, so I can explain to them the huge impact that it makes, and I usually will also draw it for them and show them, okay, this beam is, I mean, this column is going to be right here, and think about if it wasn't and what else could be done. We could do this, this, and this versus not being able to. You're going to have a little backsplash and a little wall there. And then they just starting to help them visualize, I guess, what it would look like versus how it could look with making, adding the beam and getting rid of the column and changing the structure. And there's different ways to, you don't have to do a metal beam. There's, you can do some laminated wood beams. So there's other options depending on the span of space you're running and things like that. So just getting a little creative um, to hopefully problem solve. And I think hopefully that's why they hired me. Because they know that they have a more difficult situation than just remodeling a kitchen and putting new cabinets and countertops in. It's moving walls. So.
Well, it sounds like you listen as well. You ask the questions, you listen, you let them make choices. And if they make a choice that may be an error, you don't say, you're stupid.
Right.
You know, you bring them back around to let's envision this.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe you might want to think about these things. And what do you think about that?
I do that a lot.
Yes.
A lot of listening um, and past experiences or things that they haven't thought about, throwing it out there. Um, that's great, but have you thought of this?
Mhm.
If you do that, do you realize that this, and this will happen? If you don't do that and you go this direction, this, and this could be eliminated. And so, kind of explaining not just the one item, the effect that it's going to have on other items that could also not be what they're going for, but they don't think about that because they're just thinking about that one particular item at the time, and everything trickles down to something else.
Yeah, I think that's a key point, Kendra, and I think that's what's really important. I know even in my own business that being able to explain the what ifs or you haven't thought of this or other things is what helps build trust
Yeah.
because when they come to you, they want your knowledge, but they also want to understand your knowledge
Mm-hmm.
and allowing them to go down a path and say, this is the path to the left. This is what you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
This is the path to the right. This is what you're going to get. The choice is yours. Always the choice is yours.
Mm-hmm.
But these are some things you want to think about in making that choice. And is that still the same choice?
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that brings up a point. A lot of people they're scared to hire an interior designer because they think they're going to push different ideas on them and force them to do something they don't like. And that I think is may happen, but for my company, definitely does not. It goes back to listening, and it's their home. It's not my home. My job is to help them pull all their likes together, and not that they're going to get everything, because a lot of times several things they like don't work together. Um, but making it be cohesive and their style, the aesthetics that they want, function, whether it's washable or not, different things like that. I think they're they're afraid that, oh, she likes contemporary, so she's gonna make my home contemporary or something else. And I do every style, and that's what's so fun about my job. Whether my house looks one way doesn't mean everyone's house that I do is gonna look like that. It's important to help them pull everything together that they like to
Mhm.
make it their home.
Why do you think it's important that people really think about hiring an interior designer? What are the benefits?
Um, I I think one of the main benefits is it could actually save you money in the long run. I've seen so many mistakes. Uh, someone just we'll use paint as an example. Um, chose the wrong color, had them paint it before doing a little sample, and then they had to pay to repaint the whole uh, 3 rooms that were already done or what.
Mhm.
And I would have said it right away. Make them sample it. Everything looks the color you saw in my office is not even it's on a color swatch. I order larger samples, but it's under the lighting in my office. It's not under the lighting in your house. So the color changes like crazy. So experience and knowledge, I think, saves them money also because that might be something that they didn't think about, and then you know a couple extra design hours could have saved them $1,000 or something.
Mhm.
So um, and furniture, like that sofa that doesn't fit, I will make sure that it fits. Designers uh, are very conscious on how things are laying out into space. Even can it get down your hallway to your media room because the sofa doesn't come apart? Will it make that turn? Or,
Oh, yeah. How many people have done that
uh-huh.
or bought something for a second-story room and not thought about the turns
Yep,
in the, stairwell, and it's
exactly.
not going up.
Nope.
Not unless you wanna get a lift.
Exactly, exactly. So the I think it is beneficial because there's things that we see happen all the
Mhm.
time that we can warn you about and make you think about that you may not have taken into consideration. And fabrics versus different types of fabrics. Some are more durable than others. We'll be able to tell you, that fabric. Have you thought about how light that is with your 4 boys? That you might want to go a little bit darker, not real dark, but just again, like telling them to think
Mhm.
about things. At the end of the day, it's their house, and I'm going to make sure everything looks great together, but I want it to function as well. Because if it doesn't function, I think I did a horrible job. So,
What's one of your fondest memories, of a client that you watched them come in and they're like, I wanna hire an interior designer. I don't know where we're going with this, but I'm not good at this." And at the end, they were just amazed at how you help them pull their choices together and do the reveal. I love the reveal that you do. But what's one memory that really stands out?
I have one that she actually was building to start, and I had this idea of what an interior designer was, and she came in very, like, arms crossed and wasn't sure what she was getting herself into. And um, after the first meeting, during the meeting, I could see her kind of start to relax a little bit, and as we talked more, and then it moved on to furniture and things like that. But later, she told me, I did not want to meet with an interior designer. I had this idea in my head that they were, you know, stuck up and were going to make me do what they like in my home, and I wasn't going to get what I wanted. And The experience was completely different. Once we started talking, I could tell that's not how you were, and you know, throughout the furniture process, she was then had faith in me, and then when she walked in to see everything, she just started bawling that
Aw.
because she loved it, and then
Yeah.
like she made me cry.
Uh-huh.
But that was rewarding because that was like a total flip from her not even wanting to work with a designer to like having the best experience. So um, that that was really rewarding.
And if someone were to hire an interior designer, what are some things that they need to look for?
Um, they need to be comfortable. They need to talk to them for one, and they really need to be comfortable with whoever they work with. Some personalities just may not meld, and that's natural. But they need to get along and feel a connection, feel like the interior designer, not feel pushed. If you're ever feeling like they're pushing you to something you don't like, you're probably not working with the right one. Um, Bringing pictures speak 1,000 words. So if they're, I like pictures, and now that we have Pinterest and all of that, that's so helpful. Of just getting in their head, so that I can kind of see where they're wanting to go. Because if someone says, I'm traditional, I'm old world, what their definition of that is may be completely different than my definition. And just vocabulary alone does not really explain what their overall look is that they're going for. So um, if designers aren't asking for pictures or asking um, how their lifestyle is and questions about how they live, I would say that's a red flag because definitely need someone that's taking interest on how you're going to be living in your home and what you're trying to achieve.
So, Kendra, there's got to be a few don'ts for people that they really shouldn't do when designing a space and doing their interior. Do you have a couple of those you wouldn't mind sharing?
Yeah. um, I would say don't get emotional over a piece of furniture and try to will it to fit in your house. um, Measure and make sure. Because I see that all the time. People are like, I love this piece. I'll just figure it out. And sometimes you might get lucky, but a lot of times you don't. And then you have this nice piece of furniture that you don't know what to do with. So um, I think a lot of people are just like, yes, it'll work. I just know it'll work. We'll be fine. And then you have the problem. Use physical samples. Don't select items off of a computer. If you have a way to borrow a sample, if you need to bring a cushion from your house or a drawer from your kitchen to look at wood finish with something else, I think that is always helpful. Don't look at your pictures in your phone of your sofa in your living room and look at the item in the store and say, okay, they work. And I don't know if there's a third.
Well, they think it looks good and then they put all their other stuff with it and it doesn't. That's a good way to say it.
Yeah, people I see like emotional buys, and they like that end table, and they like those club chairs, and then they like that sofa, and none of them go together. Um, and that is it pains me when I walk in, and there's all these beautiful pieces in their home, and they're gorgeous, but not one single piece looks good with the other piece that it's next to.
Yeah, it's like kind of putting the antique next to the
Mm-hmm.
modern couch.
Correct.
They don't go well together
Right.
visually.
Right, exactly.
In different circumstances, they are lovely pieces that need to have its appropriate accompaniment with
Yeah.
it.
And the
Mhm.
hardest thing is if it's a friend or someone you know, and then they want your opinion. Did I do a good job? I can't say, I'm like, it's great.
Unless they're paying you, and then you have to tell them the truth.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yes,
That
exactly.
free device doesn't always get you the truth.
No, no. Yes, and I bet oftentimes, like being in real estate, every time you go somewhere, somebody wants free real estate advice. And every time an interior designer goes somewhere, somebody wants free interior design.
What color should I paint my living room?
Yes,
I don't know what your living room looks like.
that's right. That's right.
uh,
Well, I have very much enjoyed our time together, and if somebody needs an interior designer, I can vouch for you. You do an amazing job of taking whatever circumstance there is, but also listening to your clients. So, if someone were to hire you, can you tell us how we get a hold of you and so forth?
um, absolutely. We have a website as well. So if you want to look at some of our work, it's www.swaginteriors.com. And all of our contact information is on there. Um, and my email, if you want to email me directly, is Kendra, Kendra, at swaginteriors.com. And from there, then you might get my cell phone number. That's how I prefer to communicate, but I got to be careful who I give it to, or I start getting bombarded with sales calls.
Yes, understand that
Mhm,
completely.
mhm.
Well, thank you for your time today and really enjoyed learning a little bit more about interior design.
Thanks for having me.